Was your SP all sweet in the beginning and now seems to be a self-centered jerk? If you want to know how that happened and what you can do about it, then you're going to want to stay tuned. Hello everybody and welcome to another rousing episode of Spill the Tea Tuesday. My name is Flossie and I consider myself to be the funniest, wittiest mindset coach as well as your OG hype you up rampage queen here on YouTube. If you want one-on-one coaching with me, links are going to be in the description box below. And if you are wanting an SP crash course, guess what? Nikki and I have one that is going on right now. The live is going to be this weekend, Sunday, April 13th. I think it's like 2 p.m. Pacific time. You can check for the website for the exact time. I'll have a link in the description, and that is going to include a workbook if you want an accountability workbook. So you can find details about that. I'm probably going to insert real quick, maybe a couple photos or two of my amazing vacation to Guatemala and El Salvador, because that place was muy bonita and I loved it very much. At any rate, or if you're in the mermaid gang, just click on my profile picture and you can see like 70 pictures that I uploaded of my amazing vacation, or part of it at least. So back to the video, yo. Real quick before we get to the topic at hand about your SP being all sweet and then turning into a self-centered jerk, aka some of you might call that being a narcissist. We'll get into that in just a moment, but let me get to my calendar and try to get caught up. So this says la-di-fucking-da. Yeah, well, that's what we have to say about the 3D. Why? Because it literally doesn't matter. Can't trust a damn soul if that's your limiting assumption that we don't care about. This says, fuck those April showers. Well, you know, if you don't like the rain, then manifest better weather. That's all I have to say. This says, don't rain on my fucking parade. Are you manifesting people to be raining on your parade? Because people don't do that in my reality. Why? Because I'm the operant power of facts. This says, be fucking nice to yourself. Yeah, be nice to yourself. I mean, you're literally the operant power. You can be to have anything you want. Why would you legit accept anything less? This says, when in doubt, swear that shit out, as in rampage, yo. Rampage when you are feeling doubts, or write the FU letter and command letter. This is, do your fucking taxes already. That applies to the United States. Don't care about taxes. Magical as fuck. Hardcore facts is operant power. You are legit magical as facts. This says, believe it and fucking achieve it, or something. How about you think that it's possible, go ahead and affirm and persist, don't have to believe it, and your 3D reality still conforms to having it. Facts. This says, do it for shits and giggles. I mean, you literally could, and then when your 3D reality is conforming, you're going to be like, I'm a boss-ass, badass manifestation bitch or dude. Facts. Carp fucking diem. Alrighty then. And the last one, it says spring clean your shit. How about instead of spring cleaning your shit, you spring clean up your mental diet so that your 3D reality can conform to whatever you want. Anyhow, back to the topic that I promised that we would talk about. So, you know, there's a lot of people out there, and I see a lot of posts where they're like, you know, my SP's a narcissist. And I've seen some comments on videos where people are wanting to talk about what to do if your SP is a narcissist. So first of all, one of the things that you need to keep in mind is that narcissism is actually a spectrum. And there is a range of narcissistic behaviors or traits. And so most people have some form of healthy narcissism where, you know, just because someone has a narcissistic quality doesn't necessarily mean that they're like a self-centered jerk. It can literally just be a person having values, sticking up for themselves, being independent, you know, having a certain level of self-awareness or, you know, self-confidence that a lot of us do have. When someone's having some narcissistic traits, It might be that they seem really self-centered. They just don't seem to have any empathy or sympathy for other people. They just might not really be taking responsibility for some of the things they do. They might blame other people. You know, they can be charming. They can seem really nice, but then it's just, they might be like a gaslighting type of jerk. True narcissism is usually like a personality disorder, and very, 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 very few, like a very small percentage of the population falls into that, where that person has no empathy. They're very grandiose. They think that they're the best at everything. They have an extreme amount of self-centeredness. They only really truly care about themselves. They don't care about other people, and it's difficult for them to truly have a relationship with others and be kind and caring and all that. At least somebody who has some narcissistic traits often is willing or able to have a relationship of some kind. Yeah, so, you know, there's all sorts of ways that somebody can show up where they're having some narcissistic traits. And, you know, a lot of times those people just seem self-centered, irresponsible sometimes, don't care how things impact others, not taking the responsibility, seeming like they're entitled, all that sort of stuff. So, but now, let's say that in your 3D reality, you had an SP that was really sweet, really treating you great. And then it seemed like all of these unpleasant traits are coming forth, traits that you look at as some form of narcissism, where maybe they're self-centered, they're not doing anything for you anymore, they don't really care about what you have to say, they're not taking any responsibility for the things that they're bringing to the relationship that's not healthy. Maybe they're putting you down, maybe your relationship has become kind of toxic with this person, and you want to know, how did that happen? What to do about it? So you have to keep in mind, and I'll probably link my video here about if you don't like the 3D reality, change the script. And in that video, I talk about how you essentially are the main star of your own ongoing TV show, play, story of your life. It doesn't matter how you look at it, but you're the main star of this production. But you're also the writer and director, and everybody's getting a script, including you. Well, the scripts are always getting a rewrite. So like when people make a television show or they record a movie or a series or whatever, the director is watching all of the drama unfolding as the actors are coming forth and they're playing whatever role is assigned to them. And sometimes the director doesn't necessarily like a direction that something's going. So what do? They give it a rewrite. They change some of the script, and the direction of the story may change, or maybe they're changing just some lines. But I think all of us at some point or another have heard about a rewrite where changes are made to the script, and, you know, the actors change what they're presenting to facilitate the change of the script. Well, you are constantly giving your scripts a rewrite, and those scripts are being rewritten on an ongoing basis, literally based on your dominant thought and assumption that you are having at that time, or whatever you're changing your dominant thought and assumption to. Let's say your SP was really sweet in the beginning, but then you perceived or noticed a behavior, something that was said, that when you filtered through your memories and your databases in your head of what that means, you assigned a meaning that didn't work for you. And you may have assigned that meaning that didn't work for you based on a very rapid split-second decision. And then that person's getting a rewrite because you're really forming a strong assumption that they're that way. That's literally how we can turn someone from being nice and sweet to being a jerk. And so let me illustrate for you. There was someone in my 3D reality that at one point seemed like a reasonably intelligent individual. And then one day they said something really stupid. Now, remember, I'm spiritually asleep. They said something really stupid, and I kind of was like, oh, that was really dumb. And then, you know, some time passes, and then they say something that I deem to be ignorant, unintelligent, stupid again. And so then I start thinking things like, wow, are they really this incompetent, stupid, dumb? And over time, that progressed to, wow, they've got to be like the dumbest person on the face of the planet, or they've got to be the most, you know, the most ignorant person I've ever been around. And so over time, with rewriting the script, I turned this person from being reasonably intelligent to a babbling buffoon. And so if you have an SP that's showing up sweet, but one day maybe they're really self-centered and they're not taking responsibility for something that they said or did, or you're perceiving it that way, and you choose to look at that and be like, wow, I think this person's like really self-centered and they're not taking responsibility for the stuff they said to me. And then something else happens, down the road where you're like, wow, like this time it was even worse. Like they actually, said something that I'm interpreting as like not being truly, totally nice to me. They're not taking responsibility for, a result of an action that they took. I'm thinking that maybe they only care about themselves. And so as time goes on and the behavior appears to worsen, it's worsening because you're making assumptions that don't work for you. And you're starting to change the script of this person into being like this self-centered, not caring about the results of their actions, not taking responsibility. And then as the behavior worsens and potentially gets more toxic, now maybe they're sometimes putting you down, or they're, not recognizing any role that they're playing in how you're feeling, and they're getting a little gaslighty, which means, gaslighting someone is essentially like denying your behavior, like impacting that other person, or denying that something even has happened, not taking responsibility for like how their actions are making you feel, and like putting the blame on you, like you're too sensitive. Why are you being this way? Why are you blaming me for something, for how you feel? Instead of being like, I'm sorry that what I did made you feel that way, they're going to be like, oh, you're too sensitive. You're being ridiculous. You're making a mountain out of a molehill, instead of acknowledging your feelings, which, can be also lack of responsibility, lack of empathy, things like that. And so, over time, here's this person has gone from being a nice, sweet version, really sympathetic to your needs, empathetic, really caring for you, making you the priority, making you feel loved and cared for. They're sweeping you off your feet. And then over time, it seems like they become this outrageous, self-centered, only cares about self jerk. And you're like, oh my gosh, like literally, I can hardly stand this person anymore, even though I still care about them. So now you want to know what to do. Well, number one, keep in mind, don't continue to have yourself in any situation that's really toxic or abusive. Use whatever resources that you have available to you if you need to leave an abusive situation, or whatever that you need to do to protect yourself. You can manifest a person no matter how they are in the 3D reality, but at the same time, you should make sure that you're safe and that you do some preservation of self, period. Now, having said that, you can choose to recreate your SP. I think I have a video out there. I could just link it right here where I talk about like how to recreate somebody. And so when you do that, you take out a sheet of paper and you think about the qualities or traits that you've liked about them in the past, and you write those down. And then you think about the things that you don't prefer. And instead of writing down the negative, you write down the polar opposite. So if they're acting really immature, they're mature now. If they aren't emotionally available to you, they're emotionally available. They're emotionally intelligent. If they are self-centered, well, they are, humble, they're giving, they put others before themselves, they think of others. If they don't take responsibility, well, they take full responsibility for their actions. And I think that you see where I'm going. So you want to write the polar opposite of, what they're doing that you don't prefer, and then look over the list. If it's complete, you're Gucci. If you feel like something's missing, then add it on there, because you can put any, personality trait, any quality, physical, emotional, mental, how they treat people, etc., and make sure that list is complete. And then you can affirm things like, SP's everything I've ever wanted him or her to be, or SP's everything I've ever wanted, SP's perfection, SP's thriving, SP's a perfect version of him or herself. And so you can have an affirmation like that if you'd like. One of the other things that you can do, besides, of course, the FU letter and command letter, which I think you should do if someone's treating you a way that you don't want to be treated, and you want to try to put some of the emotion and whatever that it is you think and feel about that in the trash where it belongs, so that you can affirm and persist easier. So I'll link videos about how to do FU letters, command letters. You can also, of course, do EFT tapping, which I think I have a video about anxiety and manifestation that I can just link so that you can see what EFT tapping is, and you can tap out emotion or tap affirmations in. Having said all that, look at, it's probably most likely that your SP is not a true narcissist, as in having the personality disorder, but is probably just displaying qualities that are not preferred to you. And so look at what those are and what those boil down to. Is it not prioritizing you? Is it not being cognizant or caring about your feelings? Is it just where they're just not taking responsibility? Because a lot of times when someone's showing up in an unpreferred way, it could be that it's like boiling down to one consistent theme. And if it is, then you can just affirm for that specifically. SP always prioritizes me. SP always makes me feel prioritized. SP always puts my needs first. SP always makes me feel loved and secure in our relationship. You can even, say SP always, takes responsibility. SP is an extremely responsible person. SP is very aware of, how they impact others. Like there's so many different ways that you can put it. And I would just create an affirmation that would imply to you that they're being that version that you want or treating you the way that you want to be treated. SP is always so loving and supportive. Anything that you think is like your core issue, and what would be the polar opposite of that. And then, keep in mind that you have to stop expecting SP to be Chewbacca. So if SP is being Chewbacca, the unpreferred version, and you really want the dude or chick from 50 Shades of Grey, which is, another analogy that I do, of course, you have to stop seeing SP as Chewbacca. You have to stop expecting Chewbacca. This doesn't mean that you can't ever have a negative thought about how SP has been, but you really want to reject Chewbacca if it shows up. If SP's showing up and they're being a jerk or having, any of these narcissistic traits or any of these self-centered, being an ass to you, toxicity, then, of course, always protect yourself in the 3D reality. But having said that, if they're showing up and they're not the preferred version, you don't have to give in to that version. You don't have to entertain that version. You can, in the 3D, not be a doormat and be like, you know what, I don't really prefer how, when you talk to me like that. Or, I really think that you need to think very carefully about the words that you choose when you talk to me. You can absolutely set a boundary. You don't have to take shitty behavior. But at the same time, if they show up being a little Chewbacca, you can be like, oh, you revise on the spot. Oh, SP is always so sweet and romantic and loving. They always make me feel so loved and appreciated. If you don't want to revise on the spot, you can just affirm. Everything in my life is perfect. SP is everything I've ever wanted him or her to be. Our relationship is perfect. You can choose to rampage in your mind. You can choose to walk away from the situation, say, I'm not going to really talk to you right now. I'll talk to you later. And then, go somewhere and write them an FU letter and command letter. And then go ahead and keep affirming and keep persisting. And anytime you see any behavior or tendencies that you find not healthy to you, narcissistic, gaslighting, self-centered, whatever, then, you can ignore it, use the tools, keep your boundary in place, and keep affirming and persisting. You have to keep in mind that you maybe unintentionally gave your SP a bunch of rewrites to their script that brought these traits more to the forefront. It could also be that you have a relationship pattern of having relationships with these type of people. And so if that is the case for you, then you should work on relationship patterns where you put that in the trash permanently. Because when you give a script to a specific person that you're manifesting in, whether you're spiritually awake or asleep, it doesn't matter, that script that you give them is going to tell them how to show up, because they don't have the free will to choose to treat you a certain way. They're showing up based on your assumptions that you hold about them, previous relationships, or what they represent. So if you have negative assumptions about relationships because of your personal experience or what you've observed, and you see men or women as narcissistic jerks that are self-centered and just takers and don't do anything appreciative, that is what you will experience at some point, because the script will contain that. So that's one of the reasons why I work with people on patterns, not because I'm here to heal an inner child, but because if someone has a pattern and they're repeating it, every time they manifest someone in new, they give a script that says, okay, you're going to treat me like this for a certain amount of time, and then you're going to stop, then at some point, you're going to start to not prioritize me. You're going to do things that I consider toxic for the relationship. You're going to, put me down, have negative things to say, be very self-centered, not take any responsibility, be gaslighty, make me feel like my feelings aren't valid, whatever that it is that you tend to experience, you'll just have that with other people. Why? Because you expect your relationships to be like that at the end of the day. That's how you see your relationships. And I mean, a lot of people even know that to be true about themselves, because they'll think like, here we go again. Here's another narcissistic jerk. This person's just like the last person, or everybody I date just, is always great in the beginning and they just turned out to be an ass after, we've been dating for, 2 months, 6 months, a year, or when I catch feelings, or whatever that it is, whatever that the point is, ask that to yourself. Are all your relationships with these type of people? Because then you could have a pattern, and you want to stick that pattern in the garbage can. But I'm hoping that this video is being helpful to you to illustrate, someone can appear to be an amazing person in your 3D reality, which is the version that you initially manifested in. And then if you keep thinking negative things about them, like making split-second judgments, saying, wow, that just seemed a little self-centered. Oh, wow, this person's more of a jerk than I thought. Oh, I can't believe that they treated me like this. I can't believe that they didn't take responsibility for this. You know, they're always having this negative behavior, or they're not sympathetic, empathetic to other people. You can give them rewrites that are not in your favor. I know, because I've done it personally, and I've seen it happen personally. And I know what it's like to, you know, manifest different versions of people and have to like ignore unpreferred behavior while I'm manifesting behavior or interactions that I want with the people in my 3D reality. So this is how it happens. Those are the things you can do about it. And yeah, I know you guys have been kind of asking to have a video on this topic for a while. Oh, and I had an amazing trip. Maybe I'll include some videos or pictures at some point in the video. Anyway, drop any comments, questions, or concerns below, because you know I will love to check them out. And as usual, I'll talk to you later. Bye.